students, welcome back to my English class. I am Anjana Jindal and today I am here with chapter number 8 of our Mulberry book, and the name of our chapter is The Great Mouse Plot. So children, before discussing the story, let's learn something about its author, Roald Dahl. Roald Dahl was born in Cardiff, Wales. He wrote many novels and short stories, both for children and adults. His stories for children, such as Charlie and the Chocolate Factory and Matilda, continue to be popular and are known for their unique sense of humor and unexpected endings. So, children, let's enjoy one of his writings. So, now, children, these are the characters of the story. Narrator and his four friends, who were actually very mischievous. Mrs. Pratchett, who was the owner of a sweet shop. Mr. Coombs, the headmaster of the school where these children were studying. So, children, it's chapter number 8, The Great Mouse Plot. Children, what's a plot? Yes, plot is a plan. So, in this story, we will read about the plan of some small children playing a prank. And what's a prank? Prank is a silly trick. So this is basically a story of a trick, a joke. Sometimes your friends like they play pranks on you. Means something mischievous they do, no? Yeah, something naughty, something notorious. Just to try to fool you out, no? Yeah. So this is a prank about some naughty or some mischievous children. So let us read about a prank of a group of friends played on someone they didn't like very much. So let's enjoy the story. So, children, let's start our story. My four friends and I had come across a loose floorboard at the back of the classroom. When we lifted it up, we discovered a hollow space underneath. This, we decided, would be our secret hiding place for sweets and other small treasures. Every afternoon, after the last lesson, we would wait until the classroom had emptied. Then we would lift up the floorboard and look at our secret collection. So, children, here the narrator has narrated the story by saying that he and his four friends one day came across a floorboard which was at the back of their classroom, and the floorboard was loose. Children, when something is loose, then it's very easy to lift that. It can be lifted up or it can be opened, right? And when you lift something, then you find something under that particular thing, no, or below that. Yes, so they also lifted that loose floorboard, and what they found there? They found a hollow space underneath, means below that floorboard, they found a hollow space, means an empty space where you can keep something. So at the same moment, they thought of making that spot as their hiding spot for hiding their sweets and other small treasures. The small treasures are not always gold, silver, coins, and all. No, small treasures for you children are like the things which you are attracted with. You get attracted with some beautiful erasers, sharpeners, or beautiful pencils. No, different types of many more things can be there in treasures. So, children, every day when their class gets over, they used to stay there and waited until the classroom got empty. They stayed there to check their secret place, their spot, that whether their treasures are still safe or someone had found their spot. So, what happens? One day, we found a dead mouse lying there. Wait, stung it by its tail. What shall we do with it? He cried. It stinks, someone shouted. Throw it out of the window quick. Hold on, I said. Don't throw it away. Thwaites hesitated. They all looked at me. Why don't we, I said, slip it into one of Mrs. Pratchett's jars of sweets? Then, when she puts her hand in to grab a handful, she will grab a stinky dead mouse instead. Yes, so children, one day when they are looking at their secret spot, looking at their treasure, what they found? They found a dead mouse lying there. As the floorboard was loose, so our mouse may got into that and may not got the space to come out and died over there. So they got that dead mouse lying over there. Thwaites immediately picked up and swung it by its tail. And simply he cried, what shall we do with it? As it was stinking. It was stinking. Means it had a foul smell, a bad smell. Right? So someone shouted that throw it out of the window immediately, as it was stinking. Means a very bad smell was coming out of that. Yeah. But the narrator was a mischievous boy, very naughty boy. So, in his naughty mind, a mischievous idea came, and all of a sudden, he asked him not to throw it away. He asked him to hold that. But Thwaites was hesitating as the mouse was thinking because it was dead. And all the friends looked at the narrator, at why he's saying like this. He said, an idea came into my mind, right? So, what was the idea? The idea was to play a prank on Mrs. Pratchett. Now, children, who is Mrs. Pratchett? Yes, a sweet shop was there just near their school, and Mrs. Pratchett was the owner of that sweet shop, who was not liked by these children. That's why they decided to play a prank on her. Now, children, what was the plan? What was the prank? The prank was to put that stinky dead mouse into one of her jars of sweets, so that when she will put her hand in to grab some sweet, she will grab a stinky dead mouse instead of those sweets, right? So she may get frightened, she may get terrified, she may get scared. Yeah, so this was they decided to play. Mrs. Pratchett owned the sweet shop. She never smiled or greeted us when we went to the store. When she spoke, she said things like, keep your thieving fingers off the chocolates, or either show me your money or get out. So, children, as I told you, that Mrs. Pratchett was the owner of a sweet shop. So, whenever these children used to enter her store, no, she never smiled. She never used to show the smile. She never seemed happy to see them. Right? Instead, she always scolded them by saying or using the words like "keep your thieving fingers away." Thieving, children, thieving. Thieving is an adjective here. The word thieving has come from the word thief. Who is a thief? Yes, thief is a person who steals things. Thieving means eager to steal, or you can say here the stealing fingers, right? So just keep those stealing fingers away from here. Or sometimes she used to ask like, do you have the money or not, or just get out from my shop. So this way she used to treat them. So this was the reason they didn't like her. Now other four stared at me in wonder. Then, as the sheer genius of the plot began to sink in, they all started grinning. They slapped me on the back. They cheered me and danced around the classroom. We'll do it on the way home today, they cried. You had the idea, they said to me. So you can be the one to put the mouse in the jar. I put the mouse into my trouser pocket and we headed for the sweet shop. So now, children, narrator is telling that the other four. I told you in the beginning that narrator and his four friends are there, right? So the four friends of narrator just looked at him. They were very happy, and just as the sheer genius of the plot began to sink in. The children here, sheer genius means the complete genius of the plot. When they understood that, they were so happy. They started grinning, smiling, and they slapped him on the back, like encouraged him, right? Like they patted him on his back, and they were all happy and danced all around. And they said, okay, now during the way back to our home, we'll do it. We'll make our plan a success. So they said to the narrator that as the idea was of the narrators, no? So he was the one who will put the mouse into the jar. So the narrator put the mouse into his pocket and they went towards the sweet shop. Now, we were excited as we entered the shop. Mrs. Pratchett stood behind the counter. "One coffee, please," Thwaites said to her, holding out his penny. As soon as Mrs. Pratchett turned her head away to fish a toffee out of the box, I lifted the glass lid of the gobstopper's jar and dropped the mouse in. Then I replaced the lid as silently as possible. My heart was thumping and my hands had gone all sweaty. So, children, as the narrator put the mouse into his pocket and then they went into the shop, no? So, as they entered the shop, they were so excited just to play a prank because, right? And they saw that Mrs. Pratchett was standing just behind her counter. So simply Thwaites took his penny out, showing his penny. He asked for one toffee. That one toffee, please. So as soon as Mrs. Pratchett just turned her head at the different position, no, just to take out the toffee from the box. So very silently and immediately, narrator lifted the glass lid of the gobstopper's jar. Children, gobstoppers is a kind of a candy, right? So he simply lit the glass lid, just lifted and dropped the mouse into that jar, and very silently, immediately, he put the lid back to its place. And his heart was thumping. You know what is thumping? When you play some mischievous things, no? Then your heart starts beating very fastly, no? Yes, so thumping. So the narrator's heart was also thumping the same way, and his hands were all sweaty. Means they all were sweating. "And one bootlace, please," I heard Thwaites saying. When I turned around, I saw Mrs. Pratchett holding out the bootlace. "I don't want all the lot of you trooping in here if only one of you is buying," she screamed at us. "Go on and get out." As soon as we were outside, we broke into a run. "Did you do it?" they shouted at me. "Of course I did," I said. "Well done, you," they cried. "What a super show." I felt like a hero. It was marvelous to be so popular. The next morning, we pressed our faces against the window and looked inside. Mrs. Pratchett was nowhere to be seen. So, children, after that, the narrator heard that Thwaites asked for a bootlace, and as Mrs. Pratchett was very smart and active, no, so as the narrator turned around after putting that mouse into the gobstopper's jar, no, so he saw that Mrs. Pratchett was standing with the bootlace in her hands. So, and then she again shouted that then only one is there to buy, then why all of you are just making this up over here, roaming here and there? So you all just get out from my shop, right? So they simply ran out of the shop and then immediately ran very speedily, and the other four shouted at him that have you done that, have you played that for the mouse or not? He said, yes, yes, of course I have done. And they cheered him that, okay, wow, well done, very good, what a super show, what a super thing you have done. And then the narrator felt like a hero to be so popular. So he felt so happy to be so popular and feeling like a hero, that what a great thing he has done. So the next morning, then they pressed the faces against the window to look at Mrs. Pratchett. Well, Mrs. Pratchett is what she's doing, what happened. But they didn't find her. She was nowhere. Now, the glass jar of gobstoppers was smashed with the dead mouse lying in the wreckage and hundreds of many colored gobstoppers littering the floor. She got such a shock when she grabbed hold of the mouse that she dropped everything somebody was saying. But why didn't she sweep it all up and open the shop? I asked. Nobody answered me. I no longer felt like a winner. So, children, when when the friends and narrator, they were looking for Mrs. Pratchett and they didn't find her in the shop. No. So, what they saw there? They saw that the jar of gobstoppers was broken. It was smashed and lying on the floor. And also, the dead mouse they saw lying in the wreckage. You know what is a wreckage? Children, see, if something is broken, no, if something breaks, then it breaks into many parts, pieces, small pieces, no. So all those remains are called wreckage. So they saw a dead mouse among that wreckage, and along with that, many colorful candies. Means gobstoppers were also making the floor dirty. So then the narrator heard someone saying that she got a great shock when she simply held the mouse into her hand and she dropped everything down and just ran. So the narrator asked that why she didn't clean the floor and why she didn't open the shop. Means what happened to her? Now the narrator is worried. He became little sad. That what happened to Mrs. Pratchett? So nobody answered him. Nobody had any answer to this question. So, as the narrator was sad, so he no longer felt like a winner. Now, we heard the school bell ringing and we had to gallop the rest of the way. At the end of the assembly, Mr. Coombs, the headmaster, made an announcement. The whole school is to line up around the playground immediately, he said sternly. We did as we were told. So children now, as the bell rang, now they had to gallop. They had to gallop means they had to run very quickly as they heard the school bell. And then they fastly reached the assembly. So when the assembly got over, they heard an announcement which was made by Mr. Coombs, who was the principal of the school. And then they immediately lined up around the playground as they were asked by the principal. Now, a door led out from the school onto the playground. Suddenly it swung open and through it strode Mr. Coombs, and beside him was Mrs. Pratchett. He led her at a brisk walk down the line of boys. It was like someone inspecting the troops. Suddenly she let out a high pitched yell and pointed a finger at Thwaites. That's him! She yelled. That's one of them. Then Mrs. Pratchett's eyes flicked over and settled on my face. I looked down at the surface of the playground. That one there, she yelled, pointing at me. And him, and him, and him, she said, stubbing her finger at the other three. I have got their names, said Mr. Coombs. So now, children, now what happened? A door from the school onto the playground it opened, and suddenly what they saw Mr. Coombs coming, and beside him was Mrs. Pratchett. Then both of them had a brisk walk just down the line of the boys it was seemed like as they were inspecting the children that whether they are in proper uniform or not. No, in that way they were inspecting. Suddenly what happened? He shouted. Means who shouted? Yes, Mrs. Pratchett. She yelled immediately, pointing a finger at Thwaites. That's him! Means that is one of them. And then immediately her eyes flicked over to my face, means to the narrator's face. And what narrator did? Narrator simply looked down the playground, down to the ground, so that she will not grasp the face. But she recognized him and she yelled that that's him and him and him and him, she said and pointed all other three. So now they all were caught, and Mr. Coombs got all the five names. So they were caught and their names were found out by the principal. So here their plan got failed. So children, now this was not funny, no? They wanted to have some fun, but now what happened? They would have been punished because they were found out. Yes. So children, we should not play pranks and we should be humble. So this is the lesson which we get from this story. So children, this was all about this story. I hope you understood the story well. So now children, here is your home assignment. Children, read this chapter again and learn the word meanings. And after learning, just write these word meanings in your mulberry copy very neatly. Okay children? Okay, thank you. Bye bye.